Welcome to Lincoln Heights on this wonderful day and on this wonderful occasion. My name is Stephen Sariñana Lamson. I am a third generation resident of Lincoln Heights. I'm a third generation of Lincoln High School as well. My family came here in 1910, so I'm kind of like the local historian, still live in the community, and this is a wonderful place. And I think this addition that we have that we're going to talk about and celebrate today is just going to add to the fabric that's our community, just like the train whistles that we're all used to. We want to introduce, first of all, some of our guests that are with us today. I have from the Department of Cultural Affairs, Miss Felicia Filer. Our wonderful artist, Sergio Daniel Roberto. Our council member, Gilbert Cedillo. I would be remiss if I didn't introduce these other two people. Yami Duarte, the project manager from DCA, who's in charge of the Mural program. And Jose Rodriguez, the guy that gets everything done for the council member here in Lincoln Heights. Jose? Also, we have a couple of special guests. Ms. Charlotte Castro, the widow of Sal Castro. And Paula Cristosimo. Thank you for being here, especially as a Lincoln Tiger. Forever. Before we get busy, I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about this 6-acre site and its history. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is that for 7,000 years, the Tonga existed in this area here. Their main village was right across the river here. So I want to acknowledge the fact that we're on Tonga land, land that was changed when the Spaniards came and explored with the Portola group. So I know that the spirits of the Tonga are here with us today, and I want to make sure that we all understand that. In 1769, the Portola group came through this area and actually had a outpost set up on the other side of the bridge here, and that was kind of the beginning of the European manifest, if you will, of the neighborhood and the community. The original name for the Los Angeles River was Rio de Porciúncula, which was actually part of the city's real name, which is like 7, 8, 9 words in length. I'm not even going to try. This area, including Lincoln Heights, was part of the original Spanish land grant for the city of LA, so we really are in kind of a historic area here. When Mexico ceded from Spain, this went from Spanish rule in 1821 to Mexican rule. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo became United States land. 1864, there was a smallpox epidemic in the city of LA, and one doctor stayed behind to help out the citizenry, Dr. John Griffin. And after 2 years and the subsiding of the pandemic at that time, Dr. Griffin was given the opportunity to purchase the land across the river that was city-owned for a paltry sum of $1,000. He bought the land that became Lincoln Heights and soon began to subdivide it with his nephew, Hancock Johnson, for the incredible price of $150 per lot. Yeah. And this parcel right here, this 6-acre parcel, he pretty fast sold to the former governor of California, John Gately Downey, hence the name Downey Park. North Broadway used to be called Downey Avenue, and that's where all of this comes from. It's the former governor who was actually the first governor in California that was not born in the United States. He was a citizen of Ireland, which is kind of interesting. As we sit here today, if you can imagine this, of course, the bridge was not as big and huge as it is today. This was Downey Avenue, and the bridge did not start until the edge of the riverway here. So this was all added on later. Avenue 17, which was called Water Street, literally ran where the tree is all the way back. Avenue 18 was called Hayes Avenue. If you look at a map from 1884, there were commercial buildings literally where I'm standing all along here, along Downey Avenue. There was some residential homes on Avenue 18, and the map of 1884 shows this as a little wilderness area, which is kind of interesting. Eventually, the property was leased to the Ross Swiss Dairy Company that a lot of us that grew up in the neighborhood remember, because they had a little store you could go to, and you could actually buy day-old ice cream. You know, it's frozen, right? I mean, I don't know. And now we have this spectacular Albion River Park that is a wonderful, wonderful resource to the community. And it's a resource that we're going to add to today with the unveiling of what I think is a really spectacular mural. The Champions of Change mural, the product of our artist, Sergio Roberto, was clearly the artist of choice. I was on the committee, we had a chance to kind of look at the other proposals, and there was no doubt in my mind who was going to do this mural. He displayed a sense of design, a sense of composition, above and beyond the others. His desire to make a statement was clear and resolute, and in the end, he was anxious to listen to the stories of our favorite sons and daughters up here in Lincoln Heights, and I think that was really important. In depicting Lincoln Heights' rich history of championing change here in the community, he selected a mentor who empowered a generation, a visionary who saw the possibilities of change, a dreamer who motivated others to believe in dreams, a warrior who showed others about the courage in adversity, a groundbreaker who persevered to do what had not been done yet, and a leader who sacrificed and took action for a righteous cause. As a high school teacher, Sal Castro empowered and inspired a generation of young Mexican-American students at Lincoln High School, students who would call themselves Chicanos, to stand tall, to be proud, and to embrace the struggle for educational equity. Sal taught us all by his famous saying, "Every day is a good day to be a Chicano." As the co-author of Title IX in 1972, a federal civil rights law, Dr. Ruth Vivian Acosta saw the possibilities of addressing equity in society by prohibiting the sex-based discrimination in any school or educational facility that received federal money. Among her many accomplishments with Title IX was she set forth a revolution in women's sports in America. As a young boy playing baseball here on these very fields, Robert Babo Castillo dreamed of one day making that drive from Happy Valley along North Broadway to Dodger Stadium and pitching for our Dodgers. In 1977, he made it happen. And he made it possible for all the kids in the community and all the kids at this playground to believe that dreams could come true. Our community has had a long connection with boxing, from the 1924 Olympics, where two fighters from Lincoln Heights, Fidel LaBarba and Jacob Fields, both won gold medals at the Paris Olympiad. And now we celebrate our three-time world champion, Leo Santa Cruz. In his career, Leo has shown what boxing historians call the heart of a champion and courage in adversity. El Terremoto, the earthquake, his nickname, makes us proud every time he enters the ring. UCLA Bruin and former Lincoln Tiger Kenneth Stanley Washington was considered the finest college football player in the nation in 1939. He went undrafted by the NFL because of the color of his skin. It was a long 7-year wait until he was able to finally sign a contract with our newly arrived Los Angeles Rams. That groundbreaking signing broke the color barrier and reintegrated the NFL after a 14-year apartheid. He did this 1 year before Jackie Robinson signed this contract in baseball. In March of 1968, a 17-year-old Lincoln High School student named Paula Cristosimo led the largest high school student protest in the nation's history. It was the first major mass protest against racism by Mexican Americans in the United States. Her actions gave rise to an awareness of inequitable conditions that inspired thousands across the Southwest to rise as one. Paula, from all of us that benefited from your struggles, thank you. Today, with the unveiling of this mural, we celebrate a mentor, a visionary, a dreamer, a warrior, a groundbreaker, and a leader here on this wall. These are our champions of change here from Lincoln Heights. Thank you, Sergio, for sharing your talent with the next generation of champions that will play at this park. Thank you, Councilmember Cedillo, for your vision and commitment to our community. Thank you, Felicia, for helping support this project here in our community, because God knows we have a history of murals. We need more, and more. Thank you. Now for our speakers. Representing the Department of Cultural Affairs, Ms. Felicia Filer.
Thank you, Stephen. Hello, I'm happy to be here with you this evening to unveil this amazingly beautiful mural. This project absolutely would not be possible without the help of my staff, Yami Duarte. We've already acknowledged her once, and her colleague, Serena Tayag Rivera. We had some stops and starts with this project, but we started up again, then COVID hit, and then we had to navigate our work through COVID. But at the end of the day, we were able to deliver this project for the community. I also need to thank the panelists. We had an amazing panel team that reviewed all the proposals. Selena Ortega, Stephen Lemson, Conrado Guerrero, Mario Antiveros, Eric Villanueva, Emily Winters, and Jaime Zacarias. This panel was amazing to work with. You were really insightful and thoughtful about the process, and I am absolutely certain that your work and your contribution has made this project better. And finally, the Department of Cultural Affairs is charged with commissioning public artworks in all new city parks and capital projects. And for any of you who are artists out here today or have friends of artists, please follow us through our social media channel or go to our website, culturella.org, and sign up to be able to apply for these projects. It's critical that we have a representation of artists from all over the city. We want that, we seek that, we desire that. And even when we, in 2020, we had issued a call for muralists. We had received over 300 submissions. And we ended up putting together a pre-qualified list of murals of 125 muralists, which is where we found Sergio from. So from that list of 125, we whittle it down, and we'll invite like maybe 5 or 6 artists to develop a proposal, assemble a panel. They'll review the proposals and select the best project. So if you're an artist, or if you have friends or family of an artist, we encourage you to please follow us, take advantage of these projects. There will be more projects coming in the future for LA Recreation and Parks projects. We have a couple of new mural initiatives that will be launched next year. So we really would like you to help us get the word out and invite more artists to participate in this process. So thank you. I look forward to seeing the mural later this afternoon.
Thank you, Felicia. It is now my honor to introduce the artist of the mural. Again, I can't say enough about how responsive he was to what we saw as an important component of this community being expressed. It's an honor as a fellow artist to introduce our artist of the day, Sergio Daniel Roberto.
Thank you. So as you heard earlier, he was able to break down all the important people in the mural. And part of what I wanted to do is first talk about, my process as an artist. How do I go through all of this? And first of all, I like to talk about my approach to making murals. Let's face it, these are public walls, and so they belong to the public. And my process is I'm not putting a single stroke on a piece of paper or on a wall until I've talked with the community. And so most of the time when I start out, that involves interviewing multiple people, from locals to even, artists. And there's a whole big process to it. But what I want to make clear is that I think there's a responsibility for muralists or any public artist to sit down with and be honest about their ignorance when it comes to a community. Talk to the people, listen to them, let them tell you who they are. And so that's a big part of what I do before I begin. And when the DCA announced this mural in the request for proposal, they had a few categories that they were interested in me covering. And in order of importance, they wanted portraits of successful athletes, maybe even preferably Olympians, which they actually do have from Lincoln Heights, historical landmarks, social justice, and the history of the LA River. So needless to say, that was challenging, but we managed to pull something together. But in order to do that, so many people were extremely important in that process. besides the obvious research, going online, Stephen was a huge resource in kind of revealing more layers as to the individuals that are really meaningful in the history of Lincoln Heights. And even in the beginning, the design went through phases and changes. It wasn't what you see on the wall right now. It went through different characters, different individuals, maybe changes in the background, but that was all driven by the conversations with the people that I talked with. And also my aunt as well, Armida, she was a huge part of doing research. She's kind of like the historian in the family as well, like you, and she really peeled back layers of some of the older history surrounding the LA River, which was a huge help as well. And you'll see in a moment how she contributed to that background. And then lastly, as part of the process with the DCA, we had community members, professional artists, officials, and all sitting in a panel as I described my first idea for the mural. And what was great, I got a lot of feedback. In fact, even the title of the mural changed several times. At one point, it was Champions of Adversity. And then went from that to Champions of Justice. And then from there, I was inspired by the Kenny Washington Memorial Game. When this gentleman gave a speech and he said, Champions of Change, it just came out. And I said, there it is, Champions of Change. But I think it's interesting because if you think of adversity, justice, that does lead to change, right? And one of the richest elements of getting familiar with the people of Lincoln Heights and the history was that they're not unfamiliar with difficulty. They're not unfamiliar with dreaming, and they're not unfamiliar with chasing exactly what they're going for and achieving it. And that's what this mural is all about. I was raised with a mom and dad that always taught me to be resilient, to persevere, to work hard, to always do the right thing. And all these individuals up here not only did it at one point in their life in a way that they're noted in history, but they did it every day of their life. And including directly in front of me as well. And it's been a huge honor to be part of this. There isn't a moment where I don't feel like a deep amount of gratitude for having this opportunity. And I just want to thank everybody here for being here tonight, and also for the community and the DCA for giving me the opportunity to create this mural. But thank you.
Finally, it's an honor for me to once again introduce someone that is really a champion of change as well, someone who has listened to the needs of my community, someone who has made things happen in my community, someone who's always available when it's time to make a phone call for my community. I'm honored to introduce our council member and my friend, Mr. Gilbert Cedillo.
Steve, thank you for that gracious introduction. 2 weeks ago, Friday, you were really at your top form. So we awarded the Kenny Washington Stadium $4 million to rebuild the stadium up on top of Lincoln High School. Thank you. I met this man while I was campaigning. I was very anxious to come back from Sacramento after 15 years. And he said, I've got this game. I've got this man. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I'll be there. And he's, as serious as the day is long. I mean, what he says, he does. He's an incredible leader. He's a man of vision, great competence, and incredible sensitivity. And it's just been a privilege and an honor to partner with you and collaborate with you. Public servant, as we call ourselves, is only as successful as the communities that they collaborate with. And I frequently remind my staff, and they've embraced it, that we're not politicians, but that we are, in fact, public servants, and we're here to serve the public. And if we do that and we commit to that, we can look forward to a really successful experience. See what this train does. So there's that. I want to mention this because it's tied into Sergio and his artwork. I'm from Boyle Heights, and I actually have two dear friends of mine here from Boyle Heights, Gibby and Nancy Cadena, who have joined me this afternoon. But I'm from Boyle Heights, and I'm very proud of it. But it's interesting that when there was a time where the council district represented Lincoln Heights and Boyle Heights, went south and across. So the history of this community is really connected. And so it makes sense that we're here because there's a great book. I learned this from this great book that's just been recently published about Boyle Heights and the diversity of that community. But so much of the conversation is about what took place up here. And when we were in Boyle Heights, I always would come up Soto and come up in this area. And my friend went to Cathedral High, and always coming up here. So there's a connection there that's personal, but there's also a connection because Sergio did the cover of the book, and it's an incredible drawing in its own self. And so it's a real honor and privilege to be here this afternoon. Sergio, thank you for sharing your talent with us. Felicia, thank you for you guys being great collaborators. The first vote I took in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee was to lift this mural ordinance. So they were, putting murals in with commercial speech, and they said, well, we can't have any murals in Los Angeles because we're worried that it might be commercial speech, and we haven't worked out the billboard ordinance. So since we don't work out the billboard ordinance, we're not going to have any murals. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I can see a Coca-Cola sign and understand that's commercial speech, and I can see a mural and understand that it's not. And so it was one of the very first votes I took. And because I come from Boyle Heights, it's like the second generation. During the 70s, there was this Chicano mural movement that replicated and emulated the Mexican muralists of the 30s and the 40s. And the Mexican muralists, the 30s and 40s, went to New York and helped train, like Jacob Lawrence, the great American muralists and artists of our country. And then that moved to the West, and there was this Chicano Mexican mural movement. And I thought, well, of course, why wouldn't we lift this ordinance so that people can do murals? And this is a product of that, and you are part of that lineage of great artists of the world. And so I applaud you and congratulate you. I'm happy to be here because Sal Castro was our mentor. He was our teacher. He was our leader. Underappreciated, but the time is now for us to look forward to recognize both Sal's great legacy and history, but also, Paula, you are a living legacy, and to recognize you now. Our challenge is that we don't tell our stories enough, and unless we tell our stories, no one else will. Our stories will either be erased or distorted, and so it's time for us to do that, whether it's in murals, whether it's in books and literature, whether it's in television and movies. We have to tell our stories. If we don't, no one will. And so, Paula, it's an honor to have you here. Charlotte, it's great to see you and to be here with you. I'm disappointed that Leo Santa Cruz could not be here because I love boxers. My dad was a boxer, and so I, have a great affinity for boxers. And of course, I miss Bobo because he and I could always, when I would see him, we could always have a nice beverage every now and then because that was me and Bobo. So I just loved him. He was such a great guy. Obviously, I'm a Bruin, and so the stories of Jackie Robinson and Kenny Washington are so significant to all Bruins. And the Kenny Washington family, they're a very humble family. And I'm glad that now, Steven's been working on this for more than a decade. And, sincere and committed. And finally, all of a sudden, the NFL has discovered, oh, yeah, Kenny Washington. And the LA Times has discovered Kenny Washington. But we've been having this conversation for more than a decade. And it's time for him to get the type of acknowledgement that he deserves. He stands up there with champions, right? Champions of change, like Jackie Robinson. And so, I've had a little bit of connection to all those who are honored here today. And of course, Ruth Vivian Acosta. I love Ruth Vivian Acosta today because I'm a grandfather and I have granddaughters. I'm a foster father, so I have a foster daughter. So I love her now because, now I'm a big advocate. obviously was an athlete, but now I'm a big advocate for women in sports because they build the same self-esteem, the same confidence, the same collaborative spirit, the same experiences of winning and leadership. All these things that I've learned through sports should be available to women in the same amount of commitment and resources. So I'm just very proud to be here today, to be your representative, to be your spokesperson for this community, and to fight and advocate. As the city comes out of the pandemic, we cannot come out the way we were. We need to embrace the changes that need to be made. We need to do so in a way that's very public. This park was ranked #1 in the state of California by engineers, people who study how to make public space, and said, this is the best park in the state of California. And then the park across the state park is a spectacular park. And so we will continue, and maybe one day we're going to have a Sal Castro Park if that opportunity presents itself. But we will continue to create public space, because I tell people that in the public sphere, it's where in a democratic society we're all equal. And so we just recently did a cleanup at MacArthur Park, thanks to Jose Rodriguez's leadership. And I said, the reason we're doing this is we believe that everybody has the right to a park that's clean, safe, and secure. And that in the public space is where, in a democratic society, we're all equal. We all have a place and an opportunity to play, to walk, recreation, clean water, use a restroom, use the facilities, gather. That's what should happen in a democratic society in public space. We think it's happening here. We think we're using this space appropriately to educate the history of this community, and we're looking forward as a community to go forward as one with a shared vision and a shared commitment that every person who lives in this city and every person in this district will be treated with the dignity and respect that they're entitled to and deserve as the grace of God. Thank each and every one of you for being here. And is that it? That's it. Let's do this. I'm so excited. Jose? Oh, yeah. Sergio. One last thing. You know, I'm a railroad brat. My family's from Barstow. So this is like music to my ears, but I know it's not timely because my family came north, Santa Fe Railroad. And so that is music to my ears, but I know it's not for everybody. So let me do this. On behalf of a great and gracious city, Sergio, we thank you for what you've done, commemorating the lives of real leaders and champions from this district and from the city. We thank you for what you've done, because you have made sure that in generations as they come, they will recognize Steve won't be here to let them know the history, incredible history of this community, but the story will be told in this mural, and for that, this city is deeply indebted to you, and with great gratitude gives you this as a token of our appreciation and acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Do this. Yes. Yes. Everybody good? Nod your heads if you're good. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's do it.